Hello everybody and welcome back. I did Halo Combat Evolved Legendary All Skulls on, and I asked you guys in the comments to leave what game I should do next. We did that game full path, visiting every part of the Halo campaign, and you guys are masochists because you've told me to do Halo 2 next. Halo 2 by far is the hardest Halo campaign, and I know you guys wanted me to suffer, but I love a challenge. You tell me not to do something, I'm gonna go and do it. So today we are doing Halo 2 Legendary All Skulls on full path. What does that mean, Remy? I'm glad you asked, YouTube viewer. Skulls in Halo are modifiers to make the enemies harder. The Mythic Skull gives enemies double health. The Tilt Skull makes human weaponry do nothing against the Covenant. The Assassin Skull makes every single enemy invisible. On screen now are all the modifiers of all of the skulls, but they are designed to make it hell. As we progress through the campaign, you will see all the skulls and their descriptions in the bottom left hand corner. We are doing it full path, which means we have to visit every part of the Halo 2 campaign, so let's get into the video.
Master Chief, defend this station.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Right this way.
Cairo Station Mission 1, the first level of the Halo 2 campaign, and yet it's the third hardest level overall. Halo 2 is notorious for its unfair difficulty spike, as Bungie, when rushing to get the game out the door, didn't properly test the hardest difficulty. This means Master Chief, your player on Legendary, has the least amount of health out of any character minus the Flood infection form. This is before you add the skull modifiers. The first thing you can probably notice is I have no reticule or aimer. The blind skull completely removes your HUD. Second, every single enemy is upgraded to their Ultra form. This is due to the Thunderstorm Skull, which is field upgrades for all enemies. As I mentioned before, the Assassin Skull will then make them invisible once they spawn in. Third, you can probably see that I'm meleeing every single enemy and it's turning them around. Because of the Sputnik Skull, which increases the physics multiplier, any melee on any enemy will turn them around. The technique here is to run up to every enemy, punch the elites to turn them around, headshot the grunts where possible, and in combination with the Black Eye Skull, if you kill an enemy with a melee, you can get up to 2 times overshield. You can identify the overshield level by red glow for the 1 times or a white glow for the 2 times overshield. An important thing to note about the Black Eye Skull is that enemies aren't the only things you can get shields from. Any vehicle, any ally, any object that can be destroyed can give you health. This means any turrets, if you punch them, you'll get shields back. Any Marines, if you punch them, you'll get shields back. Just be careful with the Sputnik Skull that you don't do this.
Ah, it spotted me!
Many people who play Halo 2 LASO try to stay back and pick off enemies from afar, and that's where they run into problems. Your best bet is to literally charge into everything head on. As you can see on screen, by putting the pressure back on the AI, that is the way to take them out. A cool handy trick you can use in the second hangar room is to punch a box near this plasma cannon and then get onto the turret. Because your player character is inside the box, you'll be able to kill every single enemy. It's not necessary, but if you are struggling, you can do it this way as well. The only time we change our strategy is when the flying drones come and ambush you. Because they have 0 shields, the Tilt Skull doesn't affect them, meaning you can use human weaponry, pick them off from afar, and then progress that way. The only difficult part I found on this level was the final room. There is a number of Ultra Elites, all with different weapons, some dual wielders, some energy swords. It's got everything. The strategy I used was to go up to the Ultra Elites, make them pull out their energy sword, make them follow you all the way back to the corner of the room. They lose aggressiveness to you once you jump onto this ledge, and then you can backsmack them one by one. If you are struggling with Halo 2 LASO, definitely do this strategy.
Meet inside your head now.
How much time is left?
You don't want to know. Blink if you can hear me, Chief.
Shake it off, Marines! Clear the crash site. Go, go, go!
This brings us to Outskirts, one of the much easier levels in the campaign. That is, if you jump onto the roofs like a normal person and skip a majority of these f***ing sniper jackals. These pesky aimbotting piece of will one-shot you across the entire map without a second's notice, sending you right back to the last checkpoint. Thanks to the assassin skull, they all become invisible as soon as they spawn, so you better be quick or it's going to be painful. Because we're doing full path, we did this whole section. Same strategy too. Elites and grunts you melee and headshot. Sniper jackals you need to sit back and pick off as soon as you see them. Sometimes we would purposely let them shoot us so we know where they would spawn. However, one thing that made this area significantly better is that there's a lot of checkpoints here. There's around 10 waves of enemies in the first courtyard. Each wave has its own checkpoint. Even the hunters are invisible. Thankfully, a grenade will stun them in place, and then you just guess where their critical spots are. In Sniper Alley, we were picking off enemies from afar, taking our time, and once we knew the spawn locations of all of the annoying enemies, it wasn't too bad. The most annoying enemy by far were actually the ordinary jackals. The Ghost Skull on Halo 2 makes enemies no longer flinch when hit by bullets. Flinching the shield jackals is exactly how you're supposed to defeat them. Without that flinch, they become significantly harder to kill as you have to wait for them to poke their heads out, not you picking them off when you want to. You know what's even worse than all of that? And I can't believe 343 hasn't fixed this. If you accidentally swap between the classic and the anniversary graphics, the entire level crashes. An hour gone because of 343 Industries. So we had to redo it, and then we got up to the driving section. Honestly, not too bad if you know where to go. I've watched a lot of Halo 2 speedruns in the past, shout out to Zoo, so I followed a similar line and I got through the section first try. The tunnel was a little worse, however thanks to the Black Eye Skull, you can melee the cars and the trucks, and once they explode, you get one layer of shields per car.
I recorded that.
All in all, Outskirts wasn't too bad. I was definitely expecting it to be worse. Let's move on to Metropolis.
Usually the good Lord works in mysterious ways, but not today. This here is 66 tons of straight up HE spewing divine intervention. If God is love, then you can call me Cupid.
What about that scarab?
We've all run the simulations. They're tough, but they ain't invincible. Stay with the Master Chief. He'll know what to do.
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Thanks for the tank. He never gets me anything.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
Mission 3, Metropolis, a level I did pretty much solo outside of the final Scarab fight. Why? Because it's easier to just drive through the entire level, so that's the bridge, the tunnel, the first outdoor section, and then the Wraiths assaulting the Marines' fortified position. You use the cars and the other inanimate objects to get yourself a 2x overshield, again with the Black Eye Skull, which means you can survive one sniper jackal shot or an energy sword swing from an elite. You then continue to drive through the entire level. The checkpoints again are fairly generous, and honestly the strategy up until the final Scarab fight is the Halo 2 legendary speedrun strategy. It is the most optimal way to get through, and by far the fastest. It just comes down to whether the sniper jackals kill you or not. Something interesting I noticed is when you board the Wraith, look how many grenades and hits it takes to kill an ultra elite. You also don't get shields, even though the game counts it as a melee kill. Thankfully, the jackal snipers cannot kill you out of the Wraith, and you can use it to take out the other enemies in the area, mainly the Phantom dropping reinforcements and the second Wraith. If you're fast enough, you can skip the third Wraith from spawning altogether, saving a big headache. For the final Scarab fight, I came up with a pretty cool strategy. Using rockets and the Sputnik skull, which increases the rocket's explosive power, I would sit on the roof of the Scarab. The elites would run and try and get me, and I would rocket the floor, sending them all flying off the edge. This insta-kills all of the elites. Very simple, very effective, and I would highly recommend it. You can also prop yourself in between the Scarab's main gun and the wall, allowing you to shoot inside the Scarab. It's not necessary, but a handy tip for anyone who's struggling with LASO, do that instead. With the final Ultra Elite and the Scarabs defeated, that's the end of Metropolis, one of the faster levels. It only took us around 30 minutes. War Thunder is the comprehensive and free vehicle combat game available for PC and console, offering 2,500 different tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships at your disposal. You can play the way you like on both land, sea, and air. War Thunder's detailed graphics create a realistic combat experience that allows you to control the most powerful creations in humanity's history. With over 70 million players, you too can join War Thunder today on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. New and returning users who sign up with my link today will also receive the Eagle of Valor Vehicle Decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of War Thunder Premium. This offer is available for a limited time only. If you're a fan of military history and would love direct access to a wealth of content, then you will love War Thunder. The Arbiter, Mission 4, and the first time in the Halo series, you play as an elite. Sent to quell the heretic Uprising, you fight a rogue faction of grunts, elites, and sentinels on a station orbiting a gas giant. The hardest part about this level are honestly the needler grunts. Their rapid fire shots with bottomless clips can melt you in under half a second. The heretic elites cannot melee you, so you can get up close and they become borderline useless. The Arbiter is the first level where you get active camouflage, and to be honest, this invisibility trivializes so many of the encounters. Once your invisibility runs out, you can just walk into a wall. It looks silly, but it actually puts the player's hitbox inside of the wall itself. This means the enemy will not target you. I did the entire hangar section solo by doing this, waiting for the Phantom to enter the hangar, and then when all of the enemies target the Phantom, you can proceed to pick them off with ease. The next few corridors are very similar to the levels as Master Chief. You get in close, you headshot the grunts if they're going to target you, and melee the elites to get shields back. Don't melee the sentinels or use a beam rifle, as they will explode and drain all of your shield. The final Banshee section is really easy. I played it just like I did as a kid almost 20 years ago. Just fly to where the heretic leader flew and the level is over. Just like Metropolis, this level wasn't too difficult. We got it done in under 30 minutes.
That landing zone and get inside.
What is it? That stench. I've smelled it before.
Oracle is the first level of Halo 2 featuring the Flood, and oh boy, do I have a lot to say about them. To put it mildly, they're annoying. Really, really annoying. They can melee you to death backwards, they're very tanky, they can absorb lots of damage, and they can be difficult to headshot. Due to the Thunderstorm Skull, most of the elite combat forms all have very strong shields. You also cannot melee them to death, as while they're alive, it does virtually zero damage. Using an energy sword for a melee kill does not count. However, I will say, the only positive to fighting the Flood is that after they die, you can melee the bodies and get shields off of them that way. To do that, however, takes 2 minutes per Flood body, very time consuming. The Flood infection forms, the little popcorn Flood, you cannot get shields off of them. Now the Oracle level itself starts out extremely difficult and then becomes super easy by the end. The elevator section in LASO is one of the worst sections in the game. You don't have enough ammo to defeat all of the enemies normally, you don't have enough time to get shields back off the Flood bodies, and the Flood/Sentinel factions will always target you before they target each other. They also will not attack each other until you shoot one of them. Since they're invisible, they can't target each other, which means you have to make yourself vulnerable just to get them to attack each other. The strategy is, just like the Arbiter, you stand in a wall and wait for the elevator to come all the way down. Not ideal, but it's one of the only ways to complete this section. You also do not get a checkpoint the whole way down and into the next room. So it's 15 minutes of hell, and then you need to fight off 2 waves of Flood once you drop down. Your co-op partner also doesn't get teleported entering the next room, so you both need to make the run. For me, this was the hardest part of the game. Very tedious, very time consuming, and sometimes it's completely out of your control. The laboratory area is a lot simpler, as it's on a timer once you've killed the appropriate amount of Flood. Once you've killed the amount you need, you can just sit up top, wait for the door to open. It's way easier. There's actually a skull in this room surrounded by Flood forms. They're considered alive, so you can get shields twice off of them, once to kill them and once to destroy the body. As I said, the level gets easier as you progress, and once you're outside, there's a small section before returning indoors. The level becomes free once you reach the lift section. By pressing the lift activation switch and then pressing it again while standing underneath the platform, it will pressure launch you into the next area. The secondary effect this has is, for some reason, you get invulnerability. You cannot die, you cannot take damage. That means for the rest of the level, you can just cruise through it. A much needed simpler section before the difficulty ramps up in the next segment of the game. After you defeat the heretic leader, the level ends, and to be honest, I really enjoy playing through this level casually. I love the lore implications of it, although I don't know why the heretic leader shot the Arbiter when they were having a conversation.
His edification was most enjoyable.
I had no no choice, Holy Oracle. This heretic imperiled the great journey.
Oracle, great journey. Why do you vendors insist on doing something that so easy?
Could we possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
Level 6, Delta Halo. One of the fastest missions in the entire game if you're a speedrunner, as you can get out of bounds almost immediately and run through the entire level. If you're doing it along the proper path, however, well, that's a different case entirely. The first section you can just walk past surprisingly, but then you don't get a warthog for the next segment. Keep walking, however, and you'll run into the most brokenly OP sniper jackals in the entire game. These bad boys will be locked onto you through the wall before you even come out, and they bullied me repeatedly.
Oh man. I'm getting 3 of them, so I'm getting the 4th one. Fuck, he sniped my rocket!
He fucking rolled and sniped me while rolling! The next section is also very difficult. There's around 5 to 6 ghosts, many different types of enemies, and you don't really have the weaponry to kill them. The strategy we settled on was to let the ghosts come around the corner, and by manipulating the AI, we could hijack them immediately, use their own ghosts against them, and that's how we took them out. The tilt skull makes the human weaponry against the ghosts borderline useless, so you have to use Covenant weapons, in this case the plasma cannons on the ghost, to take them out. We then use those ghosts to take out the remaining enemies, so all the turrets, the wraiths, anything else that could kill us, and if we needed shields with the Black Eye Skull, we would melee the ghost to death and it would give us a layer of shields. The next section was incredibly repetitive. You get a scorpion, you shoot from afar, you progress. Before we could even get there, however, the most annoying enemy in all of Halo 2 arrived, the Banshee. It took 26 tank shells in a row to destroy one Banshee. The Banshee will only blow up if the elite within the Banshee dies from having no health. The big difference in Halo nowadays is if you destroy the vehicle, it will kill the pilot. In Halo 2, it's the pilot's health that has to die. The elite shields regen so fast that often you aren't doing any damage at all, and they can kill you in half a second. And since your shields don't naturally recharge, this is a death sentence. We managed to kill them after probably 15 minutes, but by far, the Banshees are the hardest things to kill, purely because nothing you can fire at them does anything. After that, we took out all of the enemies with a tank from afar, and then Halo 2 crashed again. More progress lost, thanks 343, but we endured. The next section actually has the Envy Skull, which is 2 elites that are free shields, so you can get a comfortable overshield, making the 2 remaining sections not too difficult. Once you start doing the melee strategy and learn the dance, so to say, on how the AI operates, most of the indoor Covenant sections are very manageable. The final area of the level has Honor Guard elites for the first time in the campaign. You'd think they'd be super strong because they look very cool. They are significantly weaker than their Ultra counterparts and are very easy to take care of.
Wait, go back. That's what I thought he said. The Prophet of Regret is planning to activate Halo.
Are you sure?
I shall light this holy ring, release its cleansing flame, and burn a path into the divine beyond.
Pretty much.
Regret, regret, regret. Any idea what it means? Well, it's the second hardest LASO level in the campaign, and the mission where you beat up an alien in a floaty chair. Being the second hardest level overall, you really need to have a strategy for each encounter before you go into it. As soon as the level starts, you literally want to run out of the main room and spawn kill the ultra elites before they can target you. There's a lot of enemies here, so you gotta be quick. Anybody who has watched my channel for a while knows I've played a lot of the Halo campaigns, so I have a rough idea of what to expect from every encounter. Delta. The next section has around 7 annoying sniper jackals. Sometimes they kill you, sometimes they won't. How fast they actually snipe you varies. We took our time here and took them out. Now you can just jump across here straight to the gondola, but we walked all the way around. We did get shields from the enemies, so it worked out. Just before the first gondola section, there are more sniper jackals, but there's also some of the more annoying elite enemies in the game. The carbiners. Very strong, very accurate. Thankfully, both of us have beam rifles, so we're able to take them out no problem, but never underestimate carbine enemies in Halo 2. They're deadly. Now, I knew the first gondola has drones that ambush you, so I spawn kill them as they come out. I also know the other gondola will have enemies, so we make sure to have plenty ammo just in case. Heading into the second tower, we really tried to use ammo sparingly, so we didn't have to melee all that many jackals. As I said, since the Ghost Skull gives them flinch immunity, charging a jackal head on often doesn't work out too well. If you sit in this room here, you'll stop the second wave of drones spawning. Now here's where things get weird. We saved lots of ammo and we went into the underwater section, but because I was standing where player 2 gets teleported, a teleport happens because the game is loading the next section of the map, it respawned my character and I lost all of my weapons.
I'm dead.
You teleport out? Where are you?
Here.
Oh, there you are.
Do I have shield? Do I have overshield?
No.
So did I die?
I don't know.
I've never seen that before.
I thought this would set us back a checkpoint, as the Iron Skull, if one player dies, you get instantly reverted to the next checkpoint. No, it just instantly respawned me, and I lost all of my weapons. This completely changed my strategy heading into the next section, as the next part can be very difficult. Lots of snipers, lots of sword elites, there's some hunters, and there's a section with Spec Ops enemies. What we ended up doing for the first room is just take out the grunts. For the second room, we ran all the way through, and then for the third section against the Spec Ops enemies, we dropped down to the back of the room and slowly took them out one by one. The Spec Ops enemies are actually weaker than the Ultra Elites, so they are much more manageable. When you go through the second underwater section, heading into the last part of the level, here is one of the most brutal parts of the game. It's a choke point. Very little ammo, ruthless AI shooting. I pushed a box all the way to block off the way kind of to take them out. It worked, but it took 20 minutes. With that out of the way, the final gondola is all that stands between us and the Prophet of Regret. We knew we wouldn't have the ammo to defeat the Banshees that spawn. The rockets that are supplied to you just aren't enough to defeat them. Think back to when I mentioned the Scorpion. There's 2 Banshees, we have 6 rockets, it ain't gonna happen. What we did do is we meleeed some boxes to block line of sight and just walked into a wall again. Again, this hides our hitboxes. Not ideal, but without the ammo, we didn't have any other solution. Now for the moment we were waiting for, the Regret boss fight. And there's actually some things you need to do before you can fight him. Lure the sword elites into this area and block the pathway off with boxes. This keeps them stuck and they won't annoy you during the fight. Second, as you're actually fighting Regret, more elites will spawn. To stop this, you need to get 4 torches and melee them into the 4 doorways where the elites can spawn. Takes about 10-15 minutes of prep work, but as soon as we did this, we killed Regret first try. I highly recommend it. Grunts will still spawn and they're ruthless, however you can melee them to get shields back. As for Regret himself, you need to board his throne and melee him till he teleports. You can put a grenade as you board to fast track this, however sometimes Regret doesn't take damage at all. You can board him, you can punch him, but it doesn't actually deal damage. It becomes very tedious and we had to board him about 20 times. Thankfully, after around 90 minutes the level was done. Hooray! On to Sacred Icon.
Bad news. The Phantoms are turning around. The fleet is preparing to fire on our position. We need to get out of here.
Journey to the center of the ring to retrieve the Sacred Icon. Mission 8 in the Halo 2 campaign is back as the Arbiter as you fight Flood and Sentinel through the containment wall of Delta Halo. In this level we tried to run through as much as humanly possible. Often, there's no point trying to kill absolutely everything as it's much faster and easier to just use your active camo and run on through. Thankfully, all the Flood you fight in the containment wall are human Flood forms. This means they have no energy shields and are much easier to kill. Something Something I learned just the other day is that even with the tilt skull that makes human weapons useless against energy shields, the human shotgun has an 8 times damage buff versus the Flood. This means it's still a viable weapon even with the skulls weakening it. If you're doing Halo 2 LASO, definitely pick up the shotgun. It was really helpful. Sacred Icon, like the rest of Halo 2 LASO, comes down to strategy. Game knowledge is a massive bonus when attempting this. For example, we know that we need to kill the Enforcer Sentinel quickly here, active camo up, and then jump through the window before all of the enemies spawn. Often going fast is key, so you can get through before the enemies get into position. To get shields, just like we did in Oracle, we meleeed the Flood bodies even though it takes a while, and then once you reach the outdoor section, you can thankfully use Shipmaster to kill all of the Flood. He's invulnerable and has an energy sword, meaning you don't have to do anything. Just sitting here and letting them fight is all it takes. However, this happened and I couldn't believe it.
Good. Oh, there he is. He's still alive. Oh my god, he went into the wall! Dude, half go into the fucking roof of the map! He's super bounced. He's coming back. I'm not joking. Holy sh! Shipmaster from the books.
Because Shipmaster fell in a hole and couldn't come back out, there was only a couple Flood left to kill. Sacred Icon was relatively easy, and the next upcoming mission, Quarantine Zone, is even easier.
We shall cut into the heart of this infestation, retrieve the icon, and burn any Flood that stand in our way.
Quarantine Zone, QZ for short, is the easiest level in this run by far. At the start of the level, I grab a ghost and I drive past everything. Literally. The outdoor sections, boost in the ghost. If there's any rocket Flood, I stop, I active camo, and then get back in the ghost and keep on going. The enemies will not target you while you're invisible in a vehicle. Heading into the indoor sections in the Sentinel factory, drive the ghost right on through. Low on shields, stop in the in-between sections and melee the Flood bodies. Good driving is key here, and once I got through the Sentinel factory, I got all the way through in one go. I'm pretty sure we actually beat the par time on this level, since I got super lucky when driving. For the final elevator section, we knew we wouldn't have shields, ammo, or even time to kill the Flood or the Flood bodies because of all of the skulls, so we just sat here and waited for it to finish. Upon reaching the library, I always felt like this section was always intended to be a much larger segment of the campaign, but due to time constraints, it needed to be cut. Definitely the easiest level of the run, and now it's the mission you have all been waiting for, the hardest one of all, Gravemind.
The great journey is nigh, and nothing, not even the Flood, can stop it. Boo. Kill the demon!
Brutes! Fast you can kill those brutes. Brutes! Brutes!
Welcome to hell, Spartan, or at least that's what Bungie must have thought when they designed this level in Halo 2. This is the level, the ultimate challenge for any Halo player, and we're doing it full path, which means we will complete the prison as Bungie intended. There is a lot to break down in this level, so here we go. As soon as you spawn, you need to move to the right or left to avoid fire from the brutes. Because you took damage in the cutscene, 2 brute plasma bolts will kill the Master Chief. Once the first wave are defeated, here is where it gets technical. Player 1 stands next to the podium to despawn enemy waves 2 and 3. Player 2 stands in the hallway to despawn waves 4 and 5. Once Cortana says watch out for the captain, he's got a brute shot.
Watch out for the captain, it's got a brute shot.
You run up top and take the enemies out with dual needlers and brute plasma rifles. There is another despawn by standing in the same spot on the podium after you defeat all of these enemies, but we just did it normally, which clears out the first room. After leaving the council chambers, there is wave after wave of brutes, jackals, and grunts. You need to kill everything here to progress, otherwise the enemies will just melt you. However, these big objects can be meleeed for free shields. More or less like the other inside rooms of the campaign so far, you take it room by room, you slowly take out all of the enemies. The only difference between the elites and the brutes is the final brute will go berserk. However, brutes are much more vulnerable to headshots, needlers, and I think they're easier to take out than elites. Next up is the part of the run you have all been waiting for, the prison section. Now, why is the prison considered the worst part of Halo 2? Well, check this out.
You neutralize the guards, quietly.
So our strategy was, in the previous room, we would try kill all of the enemies so we could drop down with double overshields to make this even slightly possible. That wasn't until my co-op partner Shane accidentally fell in the grav lift early. Since this part is so difficult, here is the raw section of us completing the hardest part of the game.
I didn't mean to fall down the room. You have shields. This is gonna work. This is it. We got it. Good. I'm full shields.
I'm down.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go. Brute shot each quickly.
What we did was throw preemptive grenades to distract and disorient as many enemies as possible. They don't need to die, they just need to be distracted long enough for us to get down the lift. Then we drop down to the bottom level, and on that bottom level has a crate of brute shots. The brute shot melee strength is equivalent to an energy sword, so it's perfect for us to get health with. Then you sit on the bottom level, and as a team, together, you melee every single enemy that comes down. That is the hardest part. Once you do that, it's pretty easy. Anytime an enemy wave comes to try and kill you, you go to the lift, you wait, and you melee them. Once you rescue the Marines from both levels, one final wave will come down the lift, but if you sit at the bottom level, they all die from the falling death timer. With the hardest part out of the way, you now need to chase the Prophet of Truth all the way to the mausoleum of the Arbiter. This section of the game has every enemy, brutes, hunters, elites, jackals, drones, you name it, it has everything. Every enemy is invisible, they have double health, they have increased awareness of the player, and more or less one hit is going to kill you. Again, it comes down to strategy, and thankfully a majority of the outdoor sections you can just run past everything. It is not necessary to kill everything as the two factions are fighting each other. This level would be absolute hell if the brutes and the elites were both trying to get you, but because of the Great Schism and all of the infighting, it makes it easier for us to progress. One positive of this level is there's often plenty of ammo. This means for the last couple of sections, we can slowly take our time, pick off all of the enemies, and it's not too bad. Now when you enter the mausoleum of the Arbiter, the massive fight between the elites and the brutes, the elites aren't too hard to kill. You can run up to them, melee them, and that's them out of the way. One of the elites will drop a fuel rod gun, you then use that on the hunters. Whatever ammo you have left, you finish off the brutes, but most of the brutes got killed by the hunters. Really good for us. That leaves the final doorway where my co-op partner Shane just ran to the end, and that was the hardest level of the game, Gravemind, completed in 2 hours. With the hardest level out of the way, we're on to Uprising, the second to last Arbiter mission of the game. After Gravemind, I actually went to go grab a drink, and by the time I came back, Shane was already halfway through the mission. Thankfully, he sent me his point of view, but I gotta give him credit. He pretty much speedran the first half. I was only gone for maybe 5 minutes. He avoided enemies, used camo where necessary, and to be honest, it really feels like the Arbiter missions were significantly easier than the Master Chief ones. In Uprising, there is a huge level skip that all the speedrunners do, pretty much bypassing the entire outside section of the level. But since we're doing full path, here is the second section you don't usually get to see. Since my friend did the whole indoor area, I thought it was only fitting that I do the outdoor driving section. It wasn't too bad. Any point where there was a lot of enemies, I did exactly what I was doing in Quarantine Zone. I got out of the vehicle, I used camo, I kept on going. I will say, however, Jackal snipers are brutally unfair. No pun intended. The Jackal snipers are locked onto you even through walls, which is just ridiculous. Thankfully, in the final area, I got through without being sniped, and then I got out of the ghost to use camo to jump over the final 2 ghosts. Uprising took about 20 minutes.
Your pal. Where's he going?
To finish what we started. And this time, none of you will be left behind.
The second to last mission, High Charity, and the final Master Chief level of Halo 2. By far, the easiest flood level in the game, because finally, you get plenty of different weapons to fight the flood. The brute shot does a fantastic job of meleeing the flood for shields. There's also these tiny flood spores on the walls. You can melee them for even more health. Thank you, Black Eye Skull. High Charity would have also taken us about 20 minutes. Each room has more than enough enemies to regain shields, plenty of ammo to snipe stuff from afar, but what always bugged me about this level was the Prophet of Mercy's Phantom. It's literally just sitting there. Why did Master Chief go through the entire building backtracking when he could have just followed in the Phantom? Cortana was in the system, so she could have easily stopped any anti-air from shooting him. I know there's a cut Warthog run on this level, but I feel like a Phantom run flying through High Charity would have been amazing. In any case, we cleared out room to room, fighting Flood and Covenant. We reached the last platform, and we finished the level. With High Charity done, we are on to the final level, the Great Journey.
Get to Earth. Good luck.
I'll run through the truth.
Don't make a girl a promise. If you know you can't keep it.
There is still time to stop the key from turning. I must get inside. Then mount up, Arbiter. I know a way to break those doors.
The final level. We are here, everybody. The Great Journey. And this level could not have gone any better if we tried. We planned for it to take at least an hour, if not more, done in 30 minutes. First we got the Spectre and drove it to the area where you go into the cliffside. Then we despawned the Wraiths by driving the Spectre into this wall. When we went inside, we used the brute shots to launch over the wall and then camo to walk by the enemies. Now in 20 years, I have never had this happen to me, but the Phantom that usually shoots you from afar on the bridge, for some reason, drove into the massive bridge and splattered me, knocking Shane off the edge too.
What the fuck? What? Can you record that, please? Yeah, I can.
We had a checkpoint right there, so we lost maybe 30 seconds, which is no big deal. Everything else indoors went really well. Freeing the Hunters and the Counselor Elite meant that we could easily backsmack the brutes when they were distracted. We got free health from the Marines, and then the Banshee section, all you need to do is defeat the Wraiths, and then you can fly straight to the control room and wait for Johnson. Once Johnson opens up the doors for you, there is a trick where you can fly into this little gap here, and you'll go straight to the final boss, Tartar Sauce. But since it's full path, we shot the wings off of each Banshee and flew into the control room that way. Funnily enough, I discovered something, that if you fly the Banshee straight past the final set of enemies, the ones before the boss, it actually prevents half of the reinforcements coming in to help Tartarus. With the Banshee, you wait for Johnson to lower his shields and pepper him from afar. After 5 or so minutes, Tartarus falls, and that's Halo 2 LASO completed full path. We visited every area of the campaign, and by completing this playlist, you unlock the LASO achievement Back for More. Doing this allowed me to relive my childhood, playing through Halo 2 for the very first time, albeit much more difficult. Thank you to every single one of you who watched the video, and to everyone who has reached this point. This video took over a month to put together, so a like really helps out. Big thank you to Shane for being my co-op partner, Ethereal for the thumbnail, and the Halo Runs Discord for keeping Halo speedrunning alive. A big thank you to War Thunder for being today's video sponsor. War Thunder is available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Those of you who are new or haven't played for the last 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms, including multiple premium vehicles, in-game currency, and more. Thank you again to everyone watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a comment on which game I should do next, and I'll see you all later.